Hi, welcome again at the new Workplace Ninja Netherlands podcast. And this time we are recording a specific topic regarding the multi-factor for all the admin portals in the Microsoft environment. We talked about in our last recording a bit about that MFA stuff, Kenneth. So let's deep dive in what's coming, what you need to prepare for, what you need to do. What about the break the glass accounts, for example, our service accounts? So let's move on to that. I have with me Kenneth van Surksum, Erik Loef, Peter Daalmans, and Joost Gelijsteen. Uh, and then let's see what this topic brings. My name, Frans Houdendorp, and together we are the Workplace Ninja Netherlands. So, Kenneth, to elaborate a little bit on the MFA thing, like you did in the What's New that we already have recorded and published. Can you take us what is it and what do we need to know about that MFA stuff?
Yeah, so what we see happening now is that Microsoft is really taking responsibility for the security of their customer tenants. So currently there are a lot of tenants within Microsoft 365, and many of them are managed. But you shouldn't forget that due to the properties or the way that you can create a tenant, lots of them are not managed either. And meaning that, for example, if somebody has a credit card and can buy a tenant and create an email account, and it works, nothing needs to be done. So, in order to step up that game, they actually did a couple of things, starting with actually with implementing Microsoft managed conditional access policies. So almost every customer having, of course, the ability to use conditional access, having a P1 or P2 license, are actually provisioned with one or two conditional access policies, which in the beginning were actually turned in the report-only mode. But if an admin hasn't changed anything about those policies, the one of the policies currently is already turned on, meaning MFA for everyone accessing the environment. So Microsoft is really trying to enforce MFA. As part of that, they have now announced, or they announced it for quite a while, but it's now actual, that accessing the admin portals will require MFA as well, even if conditional access is not configured. And as we discussed our last overview meeting, that will have effect on our so-called break glass accounts, meaning that we need to start protecting those break glass accounts with an MFA method, because it can possibly break logging in using the break glass accounts. And as mentioned in the last meeting, I think using things like an FIDO2 security key is the way to do that in the best possible way. With the remark, of course, that doing any MFA is way better than doing no MFA at all. So in October, the Azure portal, Entra Admin Center, and the Intune Admin Center will require MFA if you log in to that environment, even if you use a break glass account being excluded from the conditional access policies. And Microsoft will actually broaden that with access to the Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell, infrastructure as code tools, like for example Azure DevOps, will also require MFA from that point forward. So especially when logging in with accounts, that will be an issue. Of course, it will not have any impact if you're using like a managed identities or service principals to do so.
Yeah. So basically, when will this be happening, Joost?
The 16th of October is the date. Is set right now, but
Yeah, but is that do I have an opportunity to postpone this, for example?
yeah, yeah, there is a possibility to decline it for now, for a couple of months. You have to fill in a form going to be sent to the team, and they are going to turn it off for you, but um, it's already being announced for a long time, already said by Kenneth. So I can understand people are going to ask to postpone it for themselves, but I don't know why. That's the bigger one.
If you look at the way that Microsoft is rolling out these kind of features, is of course that most probably new tenants will have the setting by default there if you create a new one. From that point forward, the settings will actually be gradually rolled out over all the existing tenants. So that means that maybe some tenants will be hit on October 16th, but it can also be depending on the amount of time that they are planning to take for this rollout, that some tenants will be start hitting this new way in January, for example. And that is also something that the request does. It will move you to the end of the list, but Microsoft has made it very clear that it's a temporary exception and not a definitive one.
So you need to enhance your environment because the MFA enforcement for accessing that specific resources, like the admin portals, like PowerShell Graph API, and MFA will be needed in a certain amount of time.
Indeed, and I think that the most companies having an issue with this change will be the companies who maybe created some custom scripting running as a scheduled task on a machine using an account to do the login, and haven't evolved that scripting or maybe applications to start using the new ways of doing stuff like using service principals or managed identities in order to accomplish the same.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's
so,
take that.
so
Let's take that for a moment, because we will dive into the service accounts in a few seconds. Um, what can we do to prepare ourselves? What do we need to do, Peter? What are you doing at your customers regarding this?
I'm doing nothing. No, I'm not responsible for identity in this case, but I think I guess my customers are making sure that if they aren't passwordless already, a couple of my customers are already passwordless. They make sure that the break the class accounts are excluded or having a different kind of MFA, the phishing resistant MFA, like Kenneth already mentioned. And yeah, for the rest, enroll your admin accounts into MFA and make sure that everything is protected by MFA, because I guess Microsoft tried it with two default rules in the last couple of years, which were disabled in a lot of tenants, I guess, and this is another way to make sure that Entra ID is and the environments are protected.
yeah.
So yeah, just make sure that you onboard all your users to MFA, not only admin users, but all your users should have some kind of MFA enabled.
Yeah.
Uh,
How does this relate to the security defaults, for example? Is that more or
um,
less similar?
Well, within security defaults, we don't have a way to exclude break loss accounts. So the security default is an MFA for everything, for all cloud apps, for all users. So that actually enforces MFA in every scenario already. Yeah. So users with security defaults are actually already on that baseline, to say so,
Yeah.
unless they turn them off, of course. But I think that the security baseline are, yeah, what you should have as a minimum within your conditional access baselines as well.
Yeah.
But
So
maybe it's interesting to ask Erik how he is going to solve this, since Erik, from an MSP point of view, is probably also managing a lot of those break class accounts for his customers.
Yeah, now we of course all our admin users are already enrolled with MFA, so that's fixed. The problem for an MSP is that there's no one system administrator. There are, in my case, 80 administrators. So for every customer have 80 FIDO keys will be a challenge. So we made our own software that first provision we set the phone number of the engineer who is going to log in. We have our own privileged access management. So we change every time the telephone number of the admin user in the backend. So that's our way of working. That's for the normal admin. So for the normal admin, don't have to do. Then the second, of course, every customer asks, how much can it cost this joke from Microsoft? For the admin users are free for MFA, and and security default is also free, but you only have the authenticator app, and it's not possible to do SMS. And for the admin user, the free you can use SMS. That was a little bit fuzzy for the first reading. The first time we read this, it's we need to do a phishing resistant, but that's not the case. You can, if you just enable one of all those MFA options, that's okay. You're not forced to do phishing resistant. Of course, it's the best, but you're not forced to do that. For my opinion, I manage the client, so I will be full control. So I don't like that Microsoft is doing some management which is not my management. So I don't like the way Microsoft is doing it. But okay, we have to deal with it. And for the break glass accounts, we have also enabled MFA, but then we had done some really but what we did is SMS to email, email to shared teams. So you get an SMS, the SMS will be converted to email, and the email will be sent to a Teams. So you can be added to the team site, and then you can see if who's that the break glass used. And we have a Sentinel reg exception because every break glass account has some kind of same username. For example, break glass is in the name. And then we have a regular expression on the Sentinel that alerts, hey, watch out, this someone uses the break glass code. There's also an alerting. And it doesn't cost that much money, which is also very important in the MSP market. So it was a little bit of challenge. It's not phishing resistant, but it works.
But a good example here is that doing any MFA is better than doing no MFA at all. And especially if you choose to, for certain reasons, to use, for example, non-phishing resistant MFA, if you're doing it correctly, just as Eric mentioned, the penalty is that you have extra monitoring in place in case it takes place. And with monitoring, we can, of course, maybe we should talk about gap monitoring in that case. Should be a part of the solution in that case. So if you cannot solve it the way you want it in the end directly, make sure that you do better than you are doing today and have some monitoring in place in order to monitor for the gaps and make sure that you can detect it when necessary.
And talking about MSPs, I think from an admin perspective, there are different scenarios to handle that. But specific break the glass accounts must have some attention because in most ways companies are using break the glass accounts without enforcing MFA on that type of accounts. How do we move forward with break glass accounts? Kenneth, you already mentioned FIDO2, but is that the only way to protect your break the glass accounts in a good way?
Oh, there are other ways.
One thing, that there wasn't MFA on a break glass account. That was the first recommendation of Microsoft when a few years ago all MFA was down at Microsoft. They said, "Yeah, you need to have an MFA. You have to need a break glass account without MFA, of course." So this little sorry for the discussion, but that was a first. I think 5-6 years ago, it was recommended Microsoft don't do anything on the break glass account, excluded from everything, and don't use MFA on that, because if MFA is down, which was the case, yeah, you cannot log in anymore. So sorry, Kenneth, but that was a recommendation of Microsoft that years ago.
You have a really good point, and the overall conclusion is just that best practices change over time, and I don't think that just changing the documentation stating that it's now recommended to do MFA is a way that should be more broadly communicated in this case. And I think we of course we live Microsoft there. We know what's going on there, but I do wonder how many admins are aware of the fact that this change is coming. And it will be interesting to see how many admins will be surprised that they haven't configured their accounts using MFA. On the other hand, if you're not paying that much attention, the chances that you have, for example, accounts which aren't protected by MFA, for example, because you don't have security defaults or etc., is also less, because break glass accounts are usually used when the company is serious about conditional access and doing stuff like that. So
when it comes to break the glass accounts, you also need to use common sense, right? And if Microsoft says no MFA, then you may want to look at a different MFA solution to make sure that your accounts are really well protected, or that you every day create 150 character password, rotate it every day and store it somewhere in a vault. But you need to make sure that it is well protected, and
you're absolutely right about that.
You have to think of your own, and that's why I'm not very happy that Microsoft is involving in, because then not every strategy is applicable, because Microsoft is for me as a full control is putting some sticks in the wheel, because I want to do it all on myself, and of course it must be a secure solution, so I don't need the help of Microsoft. It's nice that they do, but I don't need that help, and I'll just cancel it, but that's not importantly.
No, true. I think an opt out for MSPs like you would be very beneficial, but I think maybe 80% of the other customers who have a small tenant and don't do anything, this change will be really beneficial to secure their environment.
But if you say how if you're not reading all the stuff on the internet, if you log in now with an admin account without MFA, you get a pop-up. So it's so you get informed. So if and I don't think that kind of system administrators don't use everyday PowerShell and CLI to manage the tenant. They go to portal.office.com and they go to the admin and then click. They get a pop-up, so they know what's going on. That's the way also they get informed, and it's in the service in the center, and you get an email if the email of your admin is well configured. So there are Microsoft also without is informing.
I totally agree. I think that Microsoft is using every communication channel possible to inform people of this. But then again, from a practical point of view, I know that for most people, this will probably be a surprise at the moment that it's being enforced.
Yeah, but what I in reaction on Erik, all the communication channels, yes, but if you have all your admins configured with MFA, but only your break the glass accounts, not MFA, then your break the glass accounts get a message, but you don't log in that daily on that account, probably never. That's one. Second, how many system admins are looking into the message center? How many people are the message on the email is sent to your admin account? How many system admins do have a admin account on that admin account, an email account on that admin account? So probably there are a lot of system admins that don't get the message, and probably they listen to this recording and they know it, so they need to take action.
Yeah.
Other thing that I want to mention is regarding the break the glass accounts. I know parties, security MSPs that are managing break the glass accounts for customers, and if they're doing that, there are a lot of security analysts that manage that kind of customers. So if you want to use a FIDO2 key, a physical FIDO2 key, then it could be hard to share that between all that kind of personnel. So probably they want a central system like the Authenticator app or something like that, where you can store the 6 digit code, for example, the OTP, or something else, that you have access in case there is a security incident or whatever, that the security analyst of service, that they can use that particular code and can access that customer environment, for example.
Yeah, I have a good remark about that, because I've been thinking about that as well. Many password managers have the option to generate codes nowadays, but also many of those password managers are connected through SSO, and that's actually the risk there, because from an
If
SSO
it's in the same
perspective.
system, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So from an SSO perspective, you have the option, for example, that if the user account gets disabled, that user cannot access the passwords anymore, which is a good security measure, in my opinion. For example, if the identity provider is not available, in that case, you cannot log into the password manager as well, and therefore not access the generated digits in that point. So maybe, and that is a good example on why maybe 2 break a clause accounts are needed. Store one in your password manager with the code, and have the other one backed up on a FIDO2 security key, which is in a safe somewhere. But in the end, work needs to be done in order to make this happen.
Yeah. And Erik, you were talking about automation. You're sending out with some code and a phone number. Hopefully, you don't do that with a user account. Hopefully, with a managed identity within Azure, and Azure identity and Entra identity on that. To say it correctly, an Entra managed identity, hopefully. But if you're using, from a code perspective, if you're using service accounts with with non-MFA, how to deal with that? Who can help me with that?
No, what we do, we implement the managed identity, and because with a managed identity you can use conditional access. Then, although you don't, you do MFA, but not with you do MFA. For example, the location IP, you can only go to that service account from that specific IP. So the location is the second factor. So you can log in, but only with that user password, only from that location. That is the way we secure apps that can be secured. So one of our examples, because best is did you do everything, but it's not always possible. And then is this just a second best option, because someone leaves the company, you cannot log in. You need to have to be on that location.
And so this is one of the big misdeceptions at the moment. We are talking about MFA required for accessing not Azure, but Azure admin portals. And that's a big difference there. So, for example, if you have like an application server where a service runs under the account of a user, a non-personal user, and therefore MFA cannot be enforced, you can still, that will still work. But as Erik already explained, it might be a good idea to start thinking about restricting where that account can log on from to, for example, the IP addresses coming from your company.
For example,
Again,
Singing Cloud.
yeah, or at least indeed. And also here, it's the other thing we can do is, of course, use the workload identity protection within conditional access as well. So we can using identity protection, so that's a signal-based risk, block access for those kind of accounts if they are doing something which is out of the normal behavior of that account. But that requires, of course, extra licenses, but those licenses are quite cheap. And then you can say,
No,
if it's risk login, we just block sign in.
yeah, but that another €3, which is of course a discussion with small customers.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Regarding service accounts, don't use that kind of accounts. You still, if they are there, you need to move away to managed identities. And I think that is not only because of the MFA for the admin portals, but in general, you need to move on, because if you're using normal user accounts, you're still using legacy, and you don't need to do that.
Now, what you now is a little bit not the topic, but what you see now last year for within my company, maybe it's already there for 5 years, but now there is a need to have app registration governance. So what is it? Is there a procedure? Which apps are because it's all related to the Storm 156 or 8, which happened by Microsoft. That it gets some attention to do some governance on the app registration part, because Microsoft is also hacked by just an app registration thing. So you see, the bigger companies, if IT managers is going to ask, hey, how is that? How do you fix that with me? So there is, you see, it's not really MFA, but that's something we also have to manage and have to be able to give a right answer.
Yeah,
but I think that's a good conclusion. It's not easy that what we are doing, and in the end, I think it's doing better security every day that you touch the system. But there's much work to do, especially when we are talking about hybrid solutions, where these implementations are still necessarily in order to run business processes. Don't get me wrong.
And the biggest problem for a customer perspective is it's super invisible. So you're working whole day on that, everything. Yeah. But did you do whole day? It's really invisible work. That's something. This the when it comes to send an invoice. Well, yeah, I've done 8 hours invisible work. Okay, yeah, that's another a hard part. Yeah, at the moment.
Yeah, I can imagine.
To finish this one up, this is starting in October, but that is the first phase. Joost, what's happening in beginning of 2025?
And there's the gradual enforcement of everything other than the portals, and that's more for the Azure CLI, the PowerShell scripts, and that kind of stuff. So then it's really happening, I think. The first step is going to be a little bit easier for everyone, only for the break loss accounts, that's the bigger one. But next is the service accounts you don't know of, the service accounts lying somewhere in your environment, doing stuff you don't need to know, so you have to check with monitoring and logic apps to see what's going on.
Yeah. With that said, I say be prepared. So, and if not, if you want to know more information, please reach out to one of us. We are here to help. probably to give this a smooth transition in your environment. If you have other ideas, please let us know, and we will continue this in the next recordings with new topics. And if you like this, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel, our LinkedIn page, and see what's next on the next recordings. So thanks, guys, for this recording. I say
Thank you, Frans.
I
See
say
ya.
until the next time.